In the landmark judgment, the APC court granted local governments both administrative and fiscal autonomies, declaring that they can only be governed by democratically elected councils. The situation has left not only officials of the caretaker committees, but also workers and contractors wondering what fate awaits them, especially with the declaration by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, that the judgment will take immediate effect. Among states where local governments are governed by caretaker committees are Ondo State, Anambra, Jigawa, Rivers, Zamfara, Benue, Plateau, Abia, Enugu, Katsina, Kano, and Sokoto. Others include Yobe, Osun, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Kwara, Imo, and Bauchi states. Workers in some of the affected local governments are worried about how to receive their entitlements if the federal government makes good the directive that funds should not be sent to local governments without democratically elected officials. Local government workers in Edo State yesterday said they were hoping that the state would not be treated as one of those without democratically elected local government officials. But the president of the National Union of Local Government Employees, Comrade Edo Guber, who spoke to our correspondent, said the reason for the workers' expectations was because Edo State was slightly different from other states where caretaker committees are being used to run the local government areas. According to him, I'm aware that Edo State has slated their local government elections for October 5 this year. Let's see whether this can help them fast-track it. We believe that in the days ahead, there will be a lot of discussions and underhand dealings so that it will not begin to affect the helpless workers of the local government in terms of payment of their salaries. If allocations are not sent to Edo State local government areas, it will create serious problems in the system. But I trust those in authority, he said. The president of Rivers State chapter of the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, Clifford Paul, said yesterday that the union will seek proper explanation court order on council allocation with a view to understanding how it is going to affect non-day members. Local government employees in Plateau State yesterday expressed mixed feelings over the judgment of the Supreme Court, which granted autonomy to local governments across the country. Some expressed their fears that their salaries could be suspended if the elected government executives are in place. The good news, however, is that Plateau State government has scheduled council election for October 9 this year. But no one is sure whether the monthly allocation from the federal government will be released to councils in 3 months before the date. One local government official, Joe Madaki, said, we are just in trouble. We may have to be in fasting mode for the next 3 months because the Supreme Court has given the final verdict. Osun local government workers seek recall of elected executives sacked by Adeleke. Local government workers in Osun State have urged Governor Ademola Adeleke to reinstate the sacked elected executives following Thursday's Supreme Court judgment. A worker in the local government in Iwo, Adelatif, said, with the verdict of the Supreme Court, I doubt salary payment in July. I urge Governor Adeleke to recall the sacked elected executive for smooth running of the council. In Benue State, there were calls by the People's Democratic Party to immediately dissolve the caretaker committees in the state local governments. Interesting time ahead in local government councils across the states. Let me start with you, Ochukwu. What do you make of this? Now, there seems to be anxiety across, local government workers in states that have caretaker committee chairman. What is your take on this?
Choma, in any situation that one finds himself, there should be a rethink as the if the governors want to continue in using caretaker to run the affairs of their local governments, they also should be ready to
using caretaker committees. It baffles me. One of them is Soludo. You know, we just mentioned Sanusi, who has been in the front burner of good governance in Nigeria. Sanusi, who rose to the pinnacle of his career as a finance manager in the CBN, that knows what the letters of the law says, that a local government must be run by a democratically elected official, but is using caretaker. You know, because of the monies they enjoy by dipping their hands in the monies that are meant for local governments, that is why they are head-bent. And believe you me, most of those governors go into contesting governorship, and their godfathers trying to position them to get that slot is for them to dip their hands in the monies that are meant for local governments. Because if you look at how the jack is being shared, the federal government gets 52% plus, state governments gets 26%, and the remaining 20% goes to the local governments. The governors are recklessly making use of these monies, as nobody is also questioning them about the money for security vote, Choma. Nigerians has forgotten about the security vote. The security vote and the money is now being given to them from the removal of self-subsidy. Nobody is accounting for it.
Votes to be accounted for.
It's not to be accounted for. That
so
is
why
now.
Nigerians?
No, it's because nobody is asking them to account for the monies they deduct from the local governments. That's the comparison I'm trying to make.
About security votes. They are not by law bound to account for that.
But there's a lot of money that goes into the drain there. That is what I'm saying, that the monies they're also deducting from the local government account is not accounted for. So as the Supreme Court has made their positions known now, the local government chairman will be answerable to the money sent to them. And that is why you see a lot of governors having cases hanging on their neck, is because monies are sent to them as the custodians of those monies, and the society watchdogs watch them what they are doing with the monies. At the end of the day, they are now asked questions on what they are doing with the allocation sent to them. But you can't ask that to local government chairmen. So when they put those caretakers, they now take the monies without those people raising an eyebrow to question them. How can you question somebody that is your appointee? That is what is happening. And they find out that there are few monies that can play around there. That is why they are not putting it. And now, don't look at what happened in River State. A lot of people have been appointed as caretaker committee chairman. And remember that these same people were asking why Nyesom Wike during his own time would use a caretaker committee. And now that caretaker committee has been instituted, and people were busy bringing aids, 100, we have 608, we have 108, and these monies those people are not, there are nowhere to get the money to pay them, only from the allocation that comes in.
Right.
And those allocations that come in are monies that are given to the boys, Choma. This is why we are saying that kudos to the federal Supreme Court. And again, remember that in one of the expose, somebody from Edo State made mention that their case might be different because the governor is running with heads of administration, which the governor of River State made mention. Within 24 hours, he now screened and swear in caretaker committee. So I don't know what I want the federal government to look into it and also see if they could get, have a committee that for the time being, we look at the states that are running local government, be able to get their wage bill as a concerned salaries and the monuments, so that people will not suffer unnecessarily for what the crime they did not commit. Because you could, why I say that the governor of River State have been paying the local government workers directly from the state government. So if it's doable in River State, the federal government should quickly constitute a committee and saddle them with the responsibility of paying directly to local government workers so that they will not be suffering for a crime they know nothing about. That is why you see a lot of cries that local government workers are crying. After all, they have been there when the governors have been using their caretakers. Nobody has raised an eyebrow. But because it has concise money now, so that people will not suffer more in the hardship we are in Nigeria.
All right. So, what is your take?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, this issue or this judgment goes beyond the surface issues we are looking at. When the judgment was released on Thursday, there were a lot of celebration, and in fact, it has been earmarked as a landmark judgment. I am still questioning that judgment as a landmark judgment.
Okay.
Because the first question that comes to mind is, does this judgment, has it consolidate or stabilize our federalism? Because the judgment is supposed to, because we are running a federal system of government. What is the implication of this judgment on our federalism? Knowing what federalism is a system of government where we have a national government and a state or regional government that are coordinate in terms of power holding, in terms of the use of the powers of the state. So how far will this judgment go to solidify or enhance our federal system of government? That's the first question that comes to mind.
In response to that, very quickly, to add to that, you know that currently the concern would be Nigerians, the call generally is not to solidify federalism. In a lot of quarters, the agitation has been for Nigeria to return to regional government.
Yes.
And reduce the power at the center.
Yes.
So when you now say, how does it benefit federalism? Nigerians are calling for two things. I mean, most of the calls you hear from very concerned Nigerians will be
regional system of
government and restructuring.
Yes.
Rarely do you hear calls
in
favor of federalism right now, because I mean, according to many people,
even if we are bringing it to regional governments, will this judgment going to help in achieving that? That's one question. Okay. Again, in my own opinion, the judgment, rather than solving the problem, because the question I ask when actions are taken, the first question that comes to mind is, what is the intention? Like you said, there is clamor for regional governments. And if you see in recent times in the Nigerian government, there is this power tussle between the federal and the states. You can see that the federal government is continually, in a continuous way, trying to absorb more powers from the state to itself, from several actions of the federal government.
So several actions like?
There are so many actions where the federal government is trying to take more powers. They are involved in education, in the educational sector. The federal government is involved in the health sector. So many powers that are supposed to be left in the hands of the state government
Have the state
that are
government
closer.
doing well?
No, I'm coming. I will get there, yes.
Okay.
So there is this power conflict in trying to run the federal system.
Okay.
So putting all this in mind, will this judgment going to solve these problems? So rather, instead of saying it's a landmark judgment, in my own opinion, this judgment goes to further expose the fundamental issues, the fundamental challenges of our federal or democratic system.
All right.
And what are those fundamental issues? Number one is constitutional. This judgment has gone to expose the constitutional problems, the institutional problems, and the attitudinal problems. It is in this S3 you can look at this judgment and come to terms whether the Supreme Court have actually done something good or something worse to the system through this judgment.
All right.
Constitutionally speaking, and this goes to justify those of us who have been crying and shouting as long as this 1999 constitution is concerned. Remember Omoyele Sowore? We are students of Omoyele Sowore, and we've been saying it, that this constitution is flawed. This constitution does not reflect the interests of Nigerian people. Remember, it's a constitution that was given to us by the military and adopted as constitution 1999 when the National Assembly came in. And ever since, we have been crying that this constitution is conflicting in so many ways. For example, Section 7 of the Constitution, look at the way it is being structured, the various sections, where it says that the local government council can only be administered by a democratically elected chairman and councillors. And then if you go down, it now handed over the administration, the function, the judicial, the finance, everything to the state. It's a conflicting thing.
Yes.
The same thing with this section 162. If you look, how the money will be shared, it came to section 3. He says there should be the sharing of money was spelled out clearly. Then it came to 6. It has a joint account between the state and the local government, and the federal government should pay that money into that constitution. So these are the constitutional crises. So it is opening our eyes to go back to the constitution, to sit down with this constitution and give ourselves a constitution that is not confusing, a constitution that is not conflicting, a constitution that is not for the interest of those in power at any given time. Because if you see, ever since then, we have been having constitutional amendment. But if you look at the tune and the intent of the amendment of the constitution is for those in power, those of them in the National Assembly, either pursuing the interests of the president or pursuing their personal interests, as it was in the case of Obasanjo for you remember the third time saga. They were only amending the law to meet the president's aspirations. So let us go back to the constitution and amend this constitution the way, and produce it, not just amend it, overhaul the entire constitution and come up with a constitutional framework the way the framers of the American Constitution, when the framers of the American Constitution, the likes of Jefferson, Madison, when they were framing the American Constitution, and that is why it has stand the test of time, they did not have their interests at heart at that material time. They were looking at the future, and that's why they framed the constitution, say, from a federalism to what they are, from a confederalism, gradually they move to what they have now as a federal system. So Nigerians, the National Assembly, should, for the interest of the future of this country, 50, 100 years from now, should overhaul the constitution and come up with a constitution that will take care of all these conflicting sections of the constitution that is making the court, giving the court judgment after judgment, conflicting judgment. That is one. Number two is the institutional aspect of this judgment. Now, if you look at the court, when issues come up like this, the reason why the court, I think, the reason why they are giving this judgment is the fact that the local government, the state government, have abused this joint account by using the monies the way they want it. They will want, they now use it to hold the local government to ransom, either releasing the fund or not releasing the fund, politicizing the money that are meant for local government administration. That is the bone of contention here. But the judgment...
You should not run on sentiment.
But the judgment, does the judgment solve that problem? In my opinion, no. Because when issues like this arise, when the constitution is there, and when there are violations of the constitution, they should go to court, and the court should address those issues in their peculiarity. I'll give you an example. When Obasanjo was in power, there was a problem, the Lagos versus federal government, where Obasanjo held the finances of the Lagos State local government money. The Lagos State, under the leadership of the current president, Bola Tinubu, went to court. And the Supreme Court judged that matter, that the federal government has no right to hold the monies of the government. Even at then, the Obasanjo refused to release the money until Yaradua came, and those money were released. This was how I was looking at the Supreme Court to look at those matters. So when this matter was brought by the federal government, remember, it is the federal government, the Attorney General, that went to court. You will question, in all the matters, recently the federal government is being funny. First, they came up with anthem. Our problem is changing of the national anthem. Now they went to court. I was thinking that in the wisdom of the Supreme Court justices, I was thinking that they will ask the federal government to come up with peculiar issues in different states.
Hold on. In the case of the national anthem, was it not the National Assembly that passed it into law?
That's what I'm saying now.
So now, why are you blaming the court?
It came from the...
No. I'm not blaming the court. No. I'm not blaming the court.
The National Assembly could have actually refused.
Of course. I said, that is why I said it's been funny what the federal government is doing of recent, in spite of these various challenges.
Are you saying that the federal government has no right, or the Attorney General has no right to take this matter to Supreme Court? No, that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making, in the face of the economic challenges that needs the life, that has to do with the life of the people, the federal government has now turned to some other things that should be secondary. Okay, that's the point I'm making. But however, I was thinking that in the wisdom of these justices, they would say the federal government should bring peculiar issues in, because it is not the 36 states. Let me ask you another question. Will the court grant you prayers you did not present to it? Is the role of the courts to play an advisory role in this matter?
I'm coming.
Because you're saying the court should play an advisory role, like the federal government will present a case to the Supreme Court will strike it out and tell them to bring issues that are more integral to...
No, that's not the point I'm making. Okay. That's not the point I'm making. I'm not trying to indict the Supreme Court, but we're looking at the issues.
Actions.
Yes. Now, I'm saying that I thought the Supreme Court...
the Supreme Court as well.
I thought the Supreme Court would say, where are the peculiar issues? Because it is not the 36 states that are running caretaker and non-elected official issues. So there are states that are doing that. So I was thinking the Supreme Court would now ask, where are those states? Bring those issues.
Yes, unless in a democratic government.
It's wrong.
And you say
it is totally wrong. It is totally wrong.
Hold on, Zoe.
It is totally wrong. But let me make my point.
Still, because you're saying that you're talking about governance and how there are issues that affect people even more. Are you aware that the fact that these governors and these states are running their states with caretaker, running the local government with caretaker chairmen, have stopped development from trickling down to the grassroots?
Of course.
Because constituency projects, local government projects that are supposed to be carried out by the local governments do not get to the people. It does not get to the people. That's a fact.
I agree with you, Choma.
When you're talking about governance should be all-inclusive. And according to the constitution that you have been talking about, there are 3 tiers of government. And these 3 tiers of government are supposed to be independent, just like you have the 3 arms of government that in a stable democracy should be independent. And in these 3 tiers of government, we have the federal government, the state government, and the local government. Granted, the state government is supposed to oversee or supervise, have a supervisory role over the local government. But that is not what is happening. Instead, the state government has usurped the powers of the local government and turned it into, would I call it compensatory positions?
Of course,
tokenism. Yes,
it has become a tokenism affair.
For their cronies, for their stooges, and their minions.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
And to a large extent, it has halted democracy.
Especially at the grassroots.
At the grassroots. Not only halting democracy at the grassroots, it has stopped governance and the dividends of democracy and governance for trickling down to the grassroots. So if for some reason, if you agree with me, even the National Assembly over the years have tried severally to amend this constitution, but there is also a proviso in the constitution that says that 2/3 of the states must ratify that before that bill before it passes into law. The last time the National Assembly tried, I mean, before this one now, that the National Assembly has yet again sent out these bills for another ratification, which probably might not fly. But prior to this one that happened in 2024, the last time the National Assembly tried, only 23 states ratified it. It was just remaining one state.
And it didn't get through.
And it didn't get through. And then we are back to square one. Will you fault the federal government right now? And if you recall, there are agitations across board for local governments to be independent. These are part of the issues the government is saddled with.
Yes, Choma, all the analysis you have given with regards to the local government.
I'm bringing out the concerns.
Yes, you are totally in order. Choma, all the analysis you have laid out are totally in order. And those are the problems. But I am looking at it now. I mentioned 3 fundamental issues that this judgment with which we should extract our institutional and then attitudinal. Now we are talking about the institutional. So the question now is the judgment now going to the institutions. Like I told you, Lagos State went to court and they got judgment. Now in this case,
was it implemented?
It was the governor, the president that was on seat. He didn't until another president came. Yes, institutional problem. Those are the areas we are raising. Now, concerning this, now the Constitution, the Supreme Court, yes, granted, it has the powers not only to interpret the law, but they also have powers to some extent by their interpretation. Okay, create precedent that can enforce the law, but the Constitution does not give the Supreme Court or any other court the powers to outrightly make laws. And that's the implication of this judgment. By virtue of the judgment they have given, they have either automatically expunged Section 162, subsection 6 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court was expunged.
They actually have the powers to do that.
I have not come to terms with that because I am coming because those are fundamental responsibilities to expunge the Constitution.
Hold on.